This week on the summit, we've got the team's final match. We've got the singles preview. We've got interviews, so many interviews, and we've got tangents. Probably. We've got tangents. We're going to find out. We'll have to watch. Let's go. Yeah, that's it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Reactors Summit. This week we have just a stacked show full of so many things, even though there was only one match this week. We do have that team's finals match to talk about, and while it may be not like the best match in terms of trivia, it was shocking. Like, I don't know that I would have guessed how that would have turned out. We also have a lot of great interviews that we're going to get to, and also we're going to run through that singles tournament that's going to start just next week. It's going to be super exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. We have a great panel to go through this week in the Schmoedown. To start us out, we got Robert Parker. It's been a while since you've been on the show. How's it going, Rob?
It has. This is my first time back since you're back. So, I like to sporadically show up every other month. But no, this is a good one for me to be on. I had correctly predicted the finals of the team's tournament. I did have Lon's team versus Who's the Boss from the start in the finals. I did not see it going the way it did, so I'm excited to talk about that. And I have a really good friend in Chance Ellison in the singles tournament, so I'm really excited to get to talking today.
Awesome Opossum, and also regular contributor to the show, Malcolm Lay. How is it going, Malcolm?
It's been pretty good. I was held hostage for the last few weeks. That's why I haven't been on. They wouldn't let me come on the summit. They just told me I couldn't go anywhere. But it's good to be back, and my hostage people aren't dead, so they just left. They just got sick of it.
All right, I have nothing to say to that. I'm glad that you're no longer being held hostage. That's good news. Yep. All right. Well, we're gonna get right on into this week in the Schmoedown. Okay, well, first things first, we're going to talk about that team's finals match, and to get us into the match, we're actually going to shoot it over to an interview I had with Lon Harris. This was a great interview where we talked about both his turn in trying to get into the singles tournament, as well as his team's finals match, and about just generally his character over the course of the year, because he is someone who we have yet to hear a lot from in terms of Schmoedown content. So we're going to head over to that interview right now. All right, guys, I am here with the one and the only Lon Harris. Now, Professor Harris, Mr. Harris.
You could just say Miss. When we're off the set, I am not an actual professor. I don't want to. I don't want any. Yeah, I don't want anybody to be mistaken. I'm not a fully qualified collegiate professor. It's all part of the fun.
Well, I am taking this interview from my office because I wanted to impress you with all of my collegiate books behind me.
It does. It looks very. Yes. It looks very academic there.
Yes,
for sure.
I'm covering up the comic book section over here so that you can only see the impressive section on the other side.
The criterion. Just put the criterions at eye level.
There you go. There you go. But we're very excited to talk to you. I know that this year, I don't know if you're considered a rookie this year, since you were barely in it last year.
Yeah, I had one match against Mark Bernardin at the end of last season, and that was considered my rookie match. So I was actually nominated last year for Rookie of the Year.
Oh,
of course, it went to the very, very deserving Rachel Cushing, which of course it did, and more power to her. But yeah, so I think that makes me ineligible for this year. But maybe Jonathan, I don't know.
Oh, that is true. I would love that, because I mean, we're jumping way ahead, but I don't know anyone who's kind of come into the Schmoedown and like just jumped into it right away and felt like they understood the purpose of it so fast. And he just seemed like he was in it and understood what was going on. I mean, we can talk about the whole situation of that team shuffle business.
Sure.
But was that something that you had explained to him at all, or was he watching the matches prior to this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my whole family, they they have gotten into the Schmoedown. They enjoy it. They had no idea what it was before I started doing it, but then I told them about it and showed them a match or sent my mom a link, and now my whole family is like into it. Even like not necessarily just Jonathan and myself. They just enjoy it and are now into it as spectacle, I suppose, like everybody else. But yeah, so he had seen it because he had seen some of my matches. So when I came to him and said, would you want to do this? And the great thing about John was he's also, he's a movie nerd like me. He went to film school, which I didn't. He's the one who went to film school. And he's an improv comedy guy. He's in UCB out here in LA. So it's sort of a natural, I mean, if there's any two skills you would have in the world that would lend to themselves to the Schmoedown, being kind of funny on your feet and knowing a lot about movies. I mean, that's it. That's the formula. So I figured it would work pretty well, but yeah, he's a natural. Like he just came in and started just nailing it right away.
Yeah. And I loved that you picked your brother to be your teammate, because I know that going into that, there was so much question of like what's going to happen because of the whole JTE accident. Was that something that you thought about a lot, or was it just immediate, like, I'm just going to pick my brother and go with it?
No, it was very spur of the moment. Christian there was one other person that Christian had sort of thought about maybe would be my new teammate. And so he was sort of going that. So I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just like, Christian will assign me someone new and we'll go from there. And then he was like the other person that he wanted. I think that, I don't want to speak out of class, but I think that person is going to end up being in it. He's going to participate at some point. It just the timing didn't work out. So he was like, do you know anybody who might be good at this? And I work at Screen Junkies as sort of my other, gig. And so I was sort of thinking about some of those people, and most of them have made it clear that like, I am not a trivia person. Like Roth Cornett, who works there, and Joe Starr, they're both very knowledgeable, very funny people, would be great at it, but they have both made it expressly clear to me, like, I don't want to do trivia competition. I'm not into it. So Jonathan was just the next natural person that occurred to me. And he knew the show already. He wanted to give it a try. He works in the internet and does other YouTube stuff as well. So it just kind of all came together and worked out sort of perfectly. And yeah, Christian also liked in wrestling, there's a strong tradition of brothers, like teams of two brothers coming in and forming a team. So as soon as I pitched that to Christian, he was like, oh, that's great. That's perfect. You'll be the Harris brother.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, my maiden name was Harris. So as soon as you guys became a team, I was like, oh, I have a new team to root for. Because by that point, everyone that I wanted to win was out of the tournament. So I was like, oh, perfect. I have someone to root for. And so I was really excited that you guys made it to the finals.
Keep it in the family. Yeah.
Oh, of course. But I mean, your storyline this entire season, really, your storyline as the professor started out the season. There wasn't much else story-wise happening. Was that something that you were excited about doing, kind of the acting part of the Schmoedown?
That was the part that I was really nervous about. I mean, obviously, it's like there are gaps in everybody's film knowledge. I wasn't necessarily thinking I was going to do great, but I wasn't really nervous about the competition, because I was like, win or lose, it's just a game. I do bar trivia sometimes, and it's fun. But yeah, I'm not an actor, so it was a little intimidating to be not just going on camera and sort of improvising and making up promos or whatever, but in a character. I don't, when I'm on camera on Screen Junkies, it's just me being like, the Mig sucked. So yeah, I was kind of nervous about it, but it's, they make it fun. I mean, the team at Collider is great, and they're right off camera, and you can shoot all that stuff in sort of bits and chunks. So it's not like I have to just go up there and riff for 10 straight minutes. I can do little pieces, and they're all so good. And Christian's right there behind the camera, and he's throwing out ideas. And so, they keep it fun, and it doesn't really feel like you're doing a lot of hard work. It's just over, and you're like, oh, that was it. All right, cool. And then it comes out, I don't even remember saying half of those things.
And I remember I was at Spectacular last year, and Christian was so excited about your storyline. He was like, he's going to challenge all the young bucks, and he was giddy about it. He was so excited about your character in particular. And I really thought it was just kind of ingenious, because your character is, I mean, kind of a heel character, but it's a different one than the Schmoedown has ever had. It's more like a Bond villain, kind of, you know, sitting in the back, making plans, and it's the intellectual villain kind of thing. And I love it. I think it's such a good twist to this heel persona that the Schmoedown has had. Have you been enjoying that?
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I knew right away, because watching the Schmoedown before I was on it, like, I always knew I'd want to be a heel character. It just seems more fun. And it just strikes me as my personality. Like, I'm not the sort of guy that, like a Jason Inman, where I'm going to go out there and people are going to be like, oh, he's great. I want to be friend. I want to drink a beer with that dude. He's my favorite. Like, there are some people that just have that personality. And then there are other people, like, you know, I'd be a character actor if I was going to be in movies. So it makes sense to kind of, and there was, I don't know pro wrestling all that well, but Christian sent me some videos. There's a guy named Lanny Poffo, and his wrestling character was the genius Lanny Poffo. And the whole bit was he would come out in like a graduation cap and gown, and everything was like rhyming couplets. And he was like, I'm the smartest man in the world. I'm the smartest wrestler ever. So we're kind of tweaking that formula a little bit and mixing it up. But no, I mean, it's fun. And I think, the sort of, I think it's a nice break, and it's a different mode than sort of like, you know, what a guy like Ben Bateman will play, because it's not, they know they're playing heels. Their characters are like, yeah, we're going to come in. Like Kalinowski too, and Ken, when he sort of turned heel. It's always that kind of like, they know that they're villains and they're playing up, enjoying being bad. Whereas the Professor, he thinks he's doing good. Like, he's there to help. He wants to do nice things. He just doesn't realize he's coming off so pompous and arrogant and horrible. And so I think that's an interesting turn. I enjoy playing around with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just ingenious, kind of the way that it's being handled, because the Schmoedown, I mean, I've been watching it since pretty much it started, and you know, you get your very typical heel. They yell and, you know, banter back and forth and
insults and grabbing the mic. Yeah, and,
you know, classic. You know, it's not that it gets old. It's just there's a formula to it that you can start like picking apart a little bit, saying like, oh, this person's going to do this, and these people are going to be heels towards these people. And when you throw in a new type, it just rewrites all those formulas, and you have to start guessing a little bit more. So I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Well,
and
nice.
You've been doing a great job too. Really.
Well, thank you. The new challenge is I'm running through a lot of my like obscure classic film references, and so I got to keep like, who else haven't I like? Oh, I haven't referenced Max Ophuls yet. So I gotta like kind of keep a list of who I've already thrown out there and like what movements. Like, I made a Czech New Wave reference, and so it's like, oh, I don't want to go back to that well. So after like another season or two, I'll have to come up with a new bit, because I'll run through all the silent filmmakers I know.
Yeah, and that's another thing. So are your strengths actually kind of like the same as the Professor's strengths would be? Or is that something that you're really playing up for the part?
No, I mean, the thing that works out well about it is I do really love classic movies and foreign movies and sort of obscure movies, B movies, grindhouse movies. Like, I used to work at William Bibiani and I used to work at the same independent LA video store. It's called Laser Blazer. This was 10 years ago, more. This was like 05 to 07. And so when you work at a place like that, you learn about all these like older movies and stuff. So it worked out well that is kind of my strength, which made the Professor obvious as sort of a character. Having said that, I'm unlike the Professor. I love, you know, comic book movies and action movies and, you know, high fantasy. And like, I'm very much a 2018 movie nerd still, and I like all the big stuff that comes out. So I'm not, you know, like, I would probably do better at new releases and action movies than the Professor. But I don't ever like throw a question. I mean, if I know Simon West directed Con Air, I'm going to say Simon West directed Con Air. So,
well, I mean, Con Air is a cinematic classic, so the Professor would obviously know the answer to that.
there are sometimes, if you're really paying attention to the character, like, how would the Professor... There was a match, I'm pretty sure this one aired, so I can say this, where the question was... Well, I think we're all caught up with all my matches now. Where the question was about who sang a song from Mulan.
Oh, yeah.
And And that is obviously not a question that the professor would know, but Lon Harris knew that that was 98 degrees, and so I got that one right.
Yeah, that was actually, I was sitting there and I was like, they don't know this. It's 98 degrees. I was like yelling at my TV, and then you guys got it, and I was just like, respect. That's
I am not sure how I knew that. And it was not even like I had to think about it for a second. Like the moment that it was like, what boy band sang the True to Your Heart song from Milan? I was like, it was 98 degrees. And Jonathan was like, how, what? Are you sure it wasn't NSYNC? And I'm like, 100% 98 degrees. But I don't know how I knew. I looked it up later and they were like, they had signed with Disney Records. So it made total sense. But yeah. I didn't know that, I don't know. Just one of those things.
I mean, and they weren't even a big band, so I was really impressed with that. I mean, I was a big 98 Degrees fan when I was very young, so I obviously knew it. But I was very impressed with that. The
brain is weird. Sometimes there's just stuff back there you don't know is back there, and then it just pops.
I mean, and that's the thing about the Schmoedown that I really like is you can kind of either know the answer straight out or use things surrounding the answer to make very educated guesses. So getting into the actual matches, did you know that your 2 matches were going to be basically back to back? Like not the buy-in matches, the actual singles match and then the teams match, because they kind of aired Friday and then Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, we shot them pretty close together as well. I mean, I didn't know how close together they were going to air, but we had a sense of this is all going to be in a pretty short amount of time. It's always like, my sense is that as they get towards the end of the year, the pace of shooting everything gets ramped up a lot. Like, earlier in the year, you kind of shoot once a month, and then it kind of spaces out. But recently, it's like, I need everybody on Tuesday. I need everybody again today. And what are you doing next week? Yep. So this was part of that, it was all pretty, like there were like 3 weeks in a row where I shot every week. I was doing some kind of competition.
Yeah, the tournaments keep everyone pretty busy, and those,
yes. Well, there was the gauntlet.
Yep. So was the gauntlet really challenging? Because normally you don't shoot like 2 matches basically in a row after having sat and watched a match, unless you're at one of the big events.
Right. I think free-for-all was a really good training for that. Like, after you've done free-for-all, which is like you're there until you lose, any other Schmoedown event kind of seems like, all right, I'm going to knock this out. Because that's so long, and it's just like almost the point is to exhaust you until you just start drawing a blank on easy things. No, the gauntlet, like, I mean, I'm not trying to take away from Mr. Bateman's victory. Like, I wasn't really that tight. He just knew more. You know, a lot of it is the spin of the wheel and the numbers, and there's a little element of randomness to it. And yeah, he just was nailing stuff. And he's he's studying. And so that when you come up against somebody who is just not only has a great sort of baseline knowledge and just watches a lot of films and just knows a lot of films, but is also like spending some downtime like looking up movie dates and release dates and like composers and stuff like that. Like that's tough. That's hard to, because I'm not disciplined like that. I don't do that. I'm really relying on like, oh, hopefully I've seen that movie and I'll remember.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of people right now taking this so seriously. Not that you aren't, but they literally are like, I mean, when Sam Levine went on his big streak to win everything, he had like a binder of animated movies. He like went to every animated movie for the past 20 years, wrote everything about it, director, main people in it, storyline, plot synopsis, everything. Like laminated it. I mean, he like went crazy on the studying. Is that something that you would consider doing, or is this just something you're doing for the fun of it? Because I personally like that there's a mixture of the hardcore people and the people there just to have fun.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to. It's just the sort of thing that I don't know. I'm not. It's been too long since I went to school. Like I lack that level of discipline in my life to where like, all right, well, it's 10 p.m. time to buckle down and study for the Schmoedown. Like I would love to, because obviously I think the last few matches have exposed some kind of weak points. I mean, animation I've always known as a weak point. Being a single guy, I don't have kids. I graduated high school in 1996. So if an animated movie came out between like 1996 and like 2007, 2008, when I started paying attention to movies for work, there's a good chance I didn't see that movie. Like, you can catch me out on a lot of that stuff. Because it's just like, there was a question about Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs that like everybody with kids knows because their kids love that movie. You'll get there in a few years, but I've never had cause to see Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. It was like I was like a disaffected, early 20s, like I don't see that shit. That was me then. So yeah, that's a problem. And obviously, movie scores, I thought I knew better than I really know.
I mean, I feel like there's only like 7 options for movie scores ever. Apparently, like the multiple choice, it all kind of starts repeating.
Yeah, you think that, it's like Silvestri or Howard Shore or James Newton Howard or John Williams. Like, there's only so many names. And that was kind of what, when we got that wheel slice, that's kind of what I was thinking is like, there's how many guys are there? But, when it's like, I'm going to name a movie and like which of those guys did it in a few seconds, like it can, I will tell you, I was angry at myself after that because Jonathan and I both, it wasn't even just one of us. We had maybe 2 weeks before we shot that match, we went and saw David Cronenberg speak after a screening of Dead Ringers, and Howard Shore, the composer, was there and did a whole Q&A and talked about Scorsese movies. So when we got the question, who did the score for The Departed, it's unthinkable to me that neither of us were like, oh, Howard Shore, we had just seen him talk about it. But no, it didn't come to me.
I mean, that's the whole thing is you only get like 10 seconds to think of the answer. Yeah. So there's pressure. It's stuck in your brain. It's stuck,
Yeah. And early on, like the Bernardin and then the Cody Hall match, I was also, I was thinking about in between rounds and stuff. I was thinking about funny stuff to say as the professor. Like I was trying to kind of play the character. And right away, I sort of figured out like, oh no, don't do that. Cause then you'll be thinking about that. And then you're like, these questions are coming at you and you're not in the mode to like say Dan Aykroyd, or whatever you need to say. So yeah, it's a lot of things to juggle at once, and I've certainly forgotten things that I feel like I, knew off camera or whatever. And
Yeah, and there's nothing you can do. You basically had like the 2 worst wheel spins possible back to back. I mean, you got opponent's choice, and then you spun away from new releases and got scores and soundtracks, and I mean, it is what it is, but in the wheels can really just burn you.
Yeah, in retrospect, obviously, we should have stuck with new releases. That one, I feel like Jonathan doesn't work in the film side of things, so he doesn't see everything when it comes out, and, I'm not a reviewer like Dan from Screen Junkies and Roth. They go see all the new releases. I like catch stuff, and I see a lot of new stuff, but I'm always a little like, oh, the Collider guys are going to have seen everything when it comes out. So I'm always like nervous about that. Like if a Star is Born question comes up and I haven't caught it yet, but Reilly's seen it, I'm like, well, that's it. We're dead.
I don't know if they're doing, if they add questions for stuff that's just released. I think it's like released earlier. So people will have like, they're not going to put a question in there for Overlord. It just came out. Right? Like no one will have a chance to see it. Yeah. I think
you get, but you only get like, it's like a month buffer, maybe. Like there are questions about pretty recent stuff, but also if you get a question about something that you missed the theatrical window and it's not on VOD yet, that can also be kind of a tricky one.
Yeah. The good thing to pay attention to are trailers. So if you're a person that doesn't watch trailers, it's bad. But Chris Gillespie, who writes the questions, I mean, he doesn't go out and see every new release. So if there's a question about a new release, a lot of the time he gets the question from the trailer. So
well, yeah, I mean, a lot of Schmoedown questions are director, actor, the kinds of things you could pick up from IMDb as opposed to seeing the movie. But yeah, no, I mean that was probably, we were really hoping to get something that we both were going to really know, and there was crime movies on there, which. No problem for Jonathan and I. We would nail that one. So, yeah, it was just, one of those things, kind of an unlucky, surprisingly unlucky, because even when we got that scores and soundtracks, I sort of thought, nah, we'll get it. We'll get at least 3 or 4 of these.
Yeah. Well, you really never know, because there's been plenty of people who have had, like, they've spun their strengths and then completely bombed on the category.
Sure.
So, I mean, it is what it is. It's not always the amount of points you have that make a good match. And I thoroughly enjoyed both of the matches we had 3 matches in the past week. I thoroughly enjoyed all of them.
It's been a busy week. Well, thank you.
Yeah. But I mean, awesome. Do you have any idea of where your character will be going? Because obviously you're kind of done for the year.
Yes.
Do you have any idea of well, yeah. Do you have any idea of what we should look forward to next year? Because I know Jonathan also said that he would be interested in coming back, and that's awesome. But where do you guys see yourself going?
I'm definitely going to continue competing in the singles, and I believe Jonathan and I, in some form, are going to come back as a team, although I think there may be storyline ramifications because my old partner, JTE, is also coming back next season. So I don't know for sure what's going to happen there, but it does seem like there's going to be some kind of storyline around what this new team looks like and who is in it and who is not part of it. Will sort of be the next big storyline. I also would like, and I have no indication from Christian that this isn't happening, like I would like to follow up the Acolytes, adding more students to the School of the Elite storyline. Cody has sort of joined that group, that illustrious group. Still working on Cobster to see if he might want to come on board, but some of the younger players, I think it would be fun to try to get a faction going. So that may... Christian has not said no to me, so that may come back.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was going to make a return, so that's exciting because that was a funny kind of thing.
Yeah, I thought so too, and I feel like Cody and I have pretty good chemistry on screen, and I just think that's funny, and I would like to be part of some sort of larger faction or something at some point. So that seems like a good way to go.
Yeah, and I loved that, like, you were like collecting all these people that you beat. I thought that was really funny. But yeah, I do want to ask. No, definitely. No, you can finish.
Oh, I was saying it kind of plays into what I was saying before about, like, he doesn't see himself as bad. He sees himself as doing a good thing and gathering all of these promising young intellectuals together. So I think it's a fun way to pay that off.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think it's hilarious. I love it. But I did have just the one more question. And so there's these like special Patreon matches going on. Which, I mean, they did movie release dates, which is releasing this month, and then the horror one. Are there any matches that you would love to see happen to participate in, like a classics, and maybe they could throw in like a Alicia Malone kind of deal, get some of those people who are really good on the classic side of it, or any other kind of categories?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely love to do a classics one. I mean, that to me seems like the area that I have like the greatest sort of unique or special to the Schmoedown expertise, because there really are only a handful of us, like Roka, Bibiani, Ethan, Alicia, obviously, who have like really strong classic movie. I mean, there's more people, but it's sort of a group within the larger Schmoedown group that really likes movies from like the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. So I think that one would be a lot of fun. I like horror a lot, so I mean, we'll see what the questions are like. I don't want to after. I mean, the Jurassic Park questions and the Star Wars questions.
Yeah, those are crazy.
I mean, I love those movies. I mean, I consider myself a fan of both of those franchises, but God, I would get destroyed in those. So if the horror movies are that level of difficulty, like, I don't know if I would be competitive.
It was a good mix. It was a good mix.
Yeah.
I would not have been eliminated in the first round, but I was also playing from my couch, so it's a little bit different.
It's a little different. Yeah, like film noir, detective movies, crime movies. That's also another sort of really strong area for me. I would also love to do, foreign movies. I feel like only if they're huge breakthroughs do they really come through usually in the Schmoedown. Like, I think City of God we've had questions about before, but they have to be like at that level where they're like getting nominated for mainstream Oscars and like everybody ends up seeing them. And I would love to focus on, like, if we did like a French movie sort of match or whatever. Like, I think that would be a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I think there's a huge fan base overseas, huge.
Right.
So I think that it would be interesting to give them something from their own kind of heritage to, grab onto as well.
Yeah,
so awesome.
I just think it's the geeky, the real like geeky otaku stuff like Lord of the Rings, or I'm not on that level. Like I love those movies too, and I've read the Lord of the Rings books, but like I'm sure Rachel Cushing could destroy me on Tolkien trivia. Like I'm not on that level.
No question. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Tolkien and the movies, and she would destroy me as well. There's no question about it. I mean, I know the movies real well, but not.
Yeah. No, not on that level. And if we did TV, like Simpsons or Seinfeld, I think would be awesome. Like I did a pretty difficult bar trivia about Seinfeld one time, and I did okay. So I feel like if there was a Seinfeld grudge match, I'd be in there.
All right. Well, I'm interested in this Seinfeld grudge match now.
Right?
I would watch that.
There's got to be a few of us in Schmoedown who love Seinfeld.
Yes.
There must be.
I would watch that to death. Seinfeld is a masterpiece.
Yeah, my favorite show.
For sure. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time. Do you have anything you'd like to plug?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at LONS. That's the best way to keep up with what I'm doing on Screen Junkie, Schmoedown, all of it. So yeah, do that.
Awesome. This has been great, and I've really enjoyed seeing your character. I was a huge Screen Junkies fan before I was a Schmoedown fan, so seeing more Screen Junkies kind of make their way into it makes me very excited, and it was great talking to you. You're a wonderful human being.
Oh, you're very kind. Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, back over to me on the summit. Yeah, I'm bad with transitions.
All right, and I just want to thank Lon so much again for being on the summit and having that great interview. It was a lot of fun. One of the best interviews I've had on the show so far, which is great. And let's get into the match that we are going to be talking about, which is this team's finals match between Who's the Boss and the Harris brothers. Now, this match, like I said, may not be the best match in terms of trivia. It was very one-sided. Round one was pretty even, though, and you could really see, there was maybe some gaps in the Harris brothers game, but, it was fairly back and forth. Ended up being pretty close going into round two, and then the wheel really decided the match when they spun away from new releases, and as we heard in the interview, probably would have done better on new releases. So, that scores and soundtracks thing really was the end of the match, honestly. You got to round three with a really big knockout. So we're going to shoot it over to Malcolm to give his thoughts on this match. What did you think about this finals match? And particularly, what do you think about this matchup between Who's the Boss and the Shire Wolves going into the Spectacular?
For a finals match, I was underwhelmed by it, not because of their performance, but it was just you had so many great matches leading up to the finals, then the finals sort of ends up being a knockout, kind of is surprising. I just found it underwhelming. Who's the Boss really shows that they're a strong team, and like Harris brothers, I think it was just a case of Lon's just so new. It's just he hasn't played in a 5-round format before, so I think he didn't really know what to expect. He just wasn't prepared. But yeah, it is what it is. It was a good match to watch, but just underwhelming for the tournament.
Yeah, and I don't think we can really give less credit to how prepared Ben has been for this entire tournament, but also all the single stuff too, because a lot of the recent view has been on Andrew Guy and how much he's been studying and, his rise to kind of like the top echelon of the Schmoedown, because he's been super impressive this past few months. But Ben has been studying just as hard as Andrew has, and I think we're really seeing it with this match in particular and the match against Lon to get into the tournament. He has been on point with pretty much every category. I have really not seen a lot of gaps in his game. And so we can talk about how, you know, the Harris brothers had just not a great game, but Ben was really on the ball, and Reilly picking up those steals in round 2, both of those together was just like the nail in the coffin of this match. I mean, they just, as much as the Harris brothers lost the game, they very much won the game. And I don't know that we can put any smaller importance on that. Rob, did you have anything that you wanted to share about this and moving into Spectacular?
Yeah, just that, like, in round 1, both teams, like, neither of them had stellar performances in round 1. I believe it was 10-8 at the end of the first round, which, like, is decent, but out of a total 16 points that you can get, that's nothing really that's super, super impressive. So you definitely hit it right on the head when you said that, like, this match definitely, since neither team excelled way, way, way above the other in round 1, it was definitely decided by the wheel. And not that Lon and Jonathan Harris, like, not that the Harris bros didn't, like, still make up some points. You know, they didn't go over 6 in that second round of scores and soundtracks. They got a couple points. But that kind of category, which is just so difficult for so many people, was just enough to sink them this time. And then, of course, Reilly getting those steals, Ben and Reilly both basically running the table on their spin. So this was just a lot of things lining up for Who's the Boss to just dominate this game.
I mean, I absolutely agree. I think that this was basically like the, you know, perfect example of when everything kind of falls into place for a team to win a match. You know, you have the fact that both Ben and Reilly, I think, had a very strong match in terms of both of their strengths kind of coming into effect. You know, Reilly was really great at that scores and soundtracks because that is one of his strengths. He got to pick up some of those steals. Then you had Ben really coming into play in round 2. I think that he had a lot of the strengths in that, picking up a lot of those points. And I mean, that really helped them dominate this match, just being you know, each other's strengths and working off each other very well. So it'll be interesting to see how this team plays against the Shire Wolves, who, I mean, they've not really had that much more experience together as a team. If you look at it, they've at least won a championship, which is something that, you know, the Who's the Boss team can't quite say yet. But in terms of actually working together, they're pretty much at even footing. And I think it'll be interesting to see, you know, how these two teams kind of battle each other out. I honestly, as much as I want to say the Shire Wolves are going to win this match, because I love that team. I think they're a great team. I think they work together exceptionally well. I just don't actually know if they are going to win it, because, I mean, Mark Reilly and Ben Bateman are extremely impressive as a team. I'm really just shocked at how well they've meshed together. And that brings in a whole other question about what happens if they win the belts and the future of team action. And, you know, especially the future of Ben and Andrew together. So, and then you have a whole other thing in play of factions. So, I mean, I'd like to get your guys' opinion on this. What do you think happens if the belts get turned over at Spectacular to, you know, the future of team action and the Five Horsemen? Rob, why don't you start us out?
Yeah, I mean, if Who's the Boss wins, which I think they have a very serious shot to do, I mean, both Shire Wolves and Who's the Boss have, like, a very similar number of matches under their belt as a team. Shire Wolves obviously have been a team for longer, so, like, maybe have that chemistry a little bit more, and are in the same faction instead of rival factions. But in general, I feel like if Who's the Boss wins, and I think they have a good shot to do so, this really messes with a lot of stuff. I don't think Reilly stays in the Horsemen. I think Reilly will probably end up leaving the Horsemen if they win the team titles, which means the Horsemen will once again be looking for more members. They'll be looking for a 5th. But as for team action, I don't think that team stays together either. I think that team disbands for as long as they hold the belts, if not even longer, like for a potential rematch down the line. So I think that either way, if Who's the Boss wins, if Who's the Boss wins the title, we won't see Reilly in the Horsemen or Action as a team for a long time, at least until a couple weeks or months after they end up losing the belts down the line, however long that might be.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. Malcolm, why don't you give your thoughts on this so I don't steal all your talking points?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking probably about the same as Robert, but I've got an opposite way of sort of thinking about it too, because I think that Team Action will be gone thing, but I think Ben might turn face and actually join the Horsemen, and because I can't see a face Andrew Guy working at all, so I think Ben is probably better suited as a face in part Who's the Boss, and maybe even joining the Horsemen, which could be a possibility as well.
I mean, that's pretty interesting. I don't know that I agree with Ben ever being a face. I don't know. I think that everyone focuses a lot on Andrew because he's kind of like the loud one of the team, if you want to say that. And Ben, he doesn't like yell at people as often. So I think people like kind of sleep on him being a good heel, but he's had a lot of really kind of like dirtbag moments, which is not to say that he is a dirtbag, because he's a wonderful human being. He's very nice. But he plays a heel very well. And I think he's had some moments that I don't know that I could see him like face turning yet. I think that there needs to be some sort of like storyline or a byline that gets you to perceive him more, because Roca had a really natural progression from being like straight heel to being like a face with an edge. And you kind of saw that progression happening. So like when that was happening, I predicted, I was like, he's going to have a face turn by the end of the season. And he did. The same thing kind of happened with a storyline like the big breakup of the Lion's Den. You could kind of see things happening. Like there was bylines and stories that were working that kind of pulled that out together. And so when it happened, it was surprising, but it also was like, I understand why it happened. We need that for this transformation if Ben's going to go face. I can see it happening more with Reilly turning heel and moving in, and maybe like Team Action becoming a faction itself. Just because we've seen Reilly kind of embracing the darkness a little bit. So we're going to get like Dark Superman kind of thing where he just turns evil and goes crazy because Lois Lane died. It could happen. You never know. It would not be the first time we've had hero turn heel in the recent Schmoedown. I mean, Mike Kalinowski's a great example of that. Now, in terms of if there's an open spot in the Five Horsemen, will it get replaced? If Nost and Bibbs stay as a team, then welcome back to the Horsemen, Bibbs, I guess. I don't know that he'll ever want to be back in a faction with Roca again.
I'm sure a certain person will be happy if Bibbs rejoins the Horsemen.
Right. Chris would be ecstatic, but I don't know that we'll ever get Bibbs back into the Horsemen. You never know. It would make sense if the team stayed together, but we'll see. Anyone else have any other points they want to make on the speculation part of this?
I mean, the other one is with Who's the Boss is, do they keep Dagnino if they win? Because it's the other one that is kind of funny, because from what I understand is Dagnino and JT are still sort of together, so who knows if they're planning their own faction of themselves, or if he's going to recruit Reilly and Ben to be part of the faction and maybe call it Team Faction is they plan. But
that's not a bad thought, honestly.
I more so agree with you, Kristen, that I definitely see Reilly turning heel more than I see Ben turning face. And I think that the way this is going, if they win the team titles, I could definitely see a new heel faction forming with Andrew, Ben, Reilly, and Finstock. So, maybe Tom Dagnino stays with JT, but Finstock stays with Who's the Boss. It's a possibility. They've had the two people be separate entities before, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's the way that they go.
I would love to see it be something around the Tom Dagnino Finstock match that we've all wanted. It will never happen, but I still want it. I can dream. But I do really actually love the dynamic of Finstock and Reilly and Ben all together. So I do hope that they kind of stay as a team or a faction. But at the same time, Finstock or Tom and JTE are so iconic to the Schmoedown. It would be a shame to have that breakup in any sense. So either way, I mean, it would be interesting to see what happens, but we're definitely going to find out. I think it'll be a big part to play in that first quarter after the spectacular happens in getting storylines on all of this, because there's a lot of shakeup that has happened because of this tournament, and a lot of shakeup that will continue into the next year of the Schmoedown. And so I think that's going to be a big part to play in our storyline moving into Q1 of next year. So I'm excited to see what happens there. I think we're going to get a taste of it moving into Spectacular, but we're definitely going to see not a lot of storyline to talk about this week at all. There's no storyline to talk about at all this week. So we are going to move into our preview of the singles. But before we get to there, we had another great interview. Matt Kearns got a chance to interview Mark Reilly. And as always, Mark Reilly is just a joy to have on the show. He's a great friend of our channel. We appreciate his time. We're going to shoot it over to Matt for that awesome interview.
Hey guys, I am here with the 2014 Ultimate Schmoedown winner, the 2015 Ultimate Schmoedown Team semifinalist, and the 2016 Ultimate Schmoedown semifinalist, the 2017 Ultimate Schmoedown Team semifinalist, and the 2018 Ultimate Schmoedown Team's Anarchy Tournament winner, and the two-time Schmoedown champion, Mark Yodi Reilly. How you doing, Mark?
Wow, I'm good, Matthew. Thank you very much. What a resume there. Who is it? That's me? Wow. I'll take it.
Ooh. All right. So, Mark, we have you here, of course. We'll get to Who's the Boss, but I want to ask, so 2017, you retire, you step away from Schmoedown, coming into 2018, you're still doing it. I'm wondering, what brought you back? Was it Andrew Guy beating Merle, or were you already before that, were you deciding you wanted to come back?
I decided I was coming back. It wasn't Merle or Guy that did it. It was, after a while, and you see the new competitors coming through, I got very hungry again. Everybody was having fun, and I was on the side going, I still want to compete. I still really want to compete. And so it was very easy to come out of retirement to do that. Now, I didn't think I'd be taking on Guy. It was kind of left open, like who I was going to be competing against. But then, as you know, that happened. And but everything happens for a reason, because I think that loss really got to me. And so then you fast forward to the tournament. Here we are. So the tournament happens. Of course, things get all messy with Kalinowski brings out that's going to be Anarchy. All the teams are going to be split. Of course, you're drawn to be with Ben Bateman and Tom Dagnino as your manager. Now I'm wondering, what was your first thought when you found out that this was going to be your team? Oh boy. I was like shocked, and but I was also very excited. The idea of Tom managing me is hysterical, and I love what he does, and he is very calming. I know that might sound crazy, but he has Bateman said it on the rundown the other day that he is very, very. He's 100% behind his convictions. he says something and he just believes it completely. So he's always very calming in the sense that as we made it into the start of the tournament, he's just like, yeah, we're going to win. He just really believed in us. And Bateman, I always knew, Bateman always treated me with respect. Guy didn't treat me with respect. It was Bateman. Bateman was always very aware, even though he's heel, he was very aware of the legacy. And so I like that about him. And I had my eye on him because out of the two in the Action Army, I saw him as a strong trivia competitor. He knows his stuff. And so on paper, I looked at it and I said, we could probably go on a run here. And I was right. You know, he fills in a lot of my blanks and I fill in a lot of his blanks. And so that first match, well, when I first heard, I was like, okay, let's do this. I want to win. And I think this guy can help me win.
So you guys talked about this a little bit on Team Action's Patreon video, but how was it for you and Ben? Like, was it right off the bat in the first match? Did you feel like this is going to work, you could go to finals? Or was it before? Did you guys, like, quiz each other? Like, I'm just wondering because you guys kind of came out swinging. You were pretty dominant in your first match. At what point did that happen? Was it just in the match? Did you just feel like this kinship where you're like, oh, okay, Bateman's got me?
Yeah, I think the first match when I missed my 2-pointer towards the end there, and he nails the 3 and wins the match for us. And right then, it really, for me, all the stuff I saw on paper about Bateman came true. And I said, we were there. That was a high intense moment. Like, if he misses that, we're going to the 5-pointer. So him with that win kind of gelled for me. It's like, this guy he's rock and roll. So, but leading up to that, before our first match, we started texting back and forth and kind of discussing strategy and, getting to know each other a lot better, like discussing strengths, weaknesses, strategy, all these kind of things. So it was starting to gel even before that match. But that last minute, that win on the 3-pointer cemented it.
So you, of course, former teammates Dan Murrow, Clark Wolf, you've never been on a team with a heel. How was that for you to sort of be on, in this case, the winning side of like Ben slow rolls or something? Was that, how was that sitting at the table with Ben, seeing him do all these heelish things? Like, was there an inclining to like try to stop him, or were you just like, no, you keep doing this. This is good.
Yeah, going into it, I mean, that's by design of the Anarchy. You're putting, a face with a heel, and the results are going to be hysterical, entertaining, no matter what. I just wanted him to do his thing, and that's why I would apologize for him whenever I had a chance. And I know the conversation is, is Reilly going to go heel? This is, you can get an edge about you after a loss, like I did with Guy. You can get an edge about you when you are competing at a high level and winning, in this case, the tournament, without turning heel. The darkness, so to speak, the edge that people are seeing, I think they're mistaken as heel behavior. It's just, I like to win. And Bateman is helping me do that. So, it's a line, to be sure, and I always will respect the competitors in there. And I'm trying to, on the other side of things with Bateman, I'm trying to show him a different way through actions. Actions speak louder than words. Just go in there and play some trivia. But he is a heel. He has a way of winning, and I'm not going to get in the way of that.
Of course, and you guys made it all the way to the finals against the Harris Bros. Now, you guys, we don't even need to, that was pretty much a non-match for you guys. I mean, you KO them in round 3, but you guys didn't get to play any other teams. So, looking at that bracket, was there anyone you wished you could have went up against that was on the other side of the bracket?
On the other side of the bracket, yeah, I was circling the Odd Couple. I really like the Odd Couple. I love Snyder and Andraco, and I think that they were what looked like they were really going to be the ones to take out the Harris brothers. And so I kind of had circled them. I think it would have been a fun match because I think, I think both of us, Ben and me, pair up very well with Andreyko and Snyder. And I would have loved to see that. I think there was some fireworks to that. And at the same point, though, I feel like I know of some blind spots in the Odd Couple that I would have loved to try to, what's the word I'm looking for? Try to enlighten everybody on. Mm-hmm. Like, I would want to go after those holes. But, we never got to go there. On the other side of things, I was really thinking that it was going to be Founding Fathers that we would have been playing in the semis. And that would have been interesting because when you think about it, I've beaten Roca once, he's beaten me twice, he's beaten me 3 times if you think of teams, and Dan Merle has beaten me twice as well. So it would have been very interesting to maybe get a win against them with Bateman because Bateman also wants to take out Roca. So I think that match was moreover, even over the Odd Couple. That was the match I was really looking at and was really wanting to happen. Yeah,
that would have been a crazy match for sure. I mean, stablemate against stablemate, of course, like you said, there's so much history between you 3 as a competitor, as competitors. But of course, you guys win. You're going to Spectacular, and of course, you're facing the Shar Wolves with your former teammate Clark Wolf. How is that for you going up against Clark now? Like, you guys are, in a sense, you're enemies in a way. Like, you might be nice, but like, you are enemies. How is that for you? Like, this was your teammate. You made it to the semifinals last year. How is this?
Well, of all the dumb luck of winning a tournament, I have to now go play Clark Wolf and Rachel Cushing. That's the first thing that went through my head. And when I saw Rachel and Clark, I was like, I said it just like that. I'm like, of all the stupid luck, I got to go against you guys because they're at the top of their game. They're dangerous. And much like if I was going to face Merle and Roca, they're my stablemates. We love trivia. We love playing each other. And that's kind of where I'm going with Clark and Rachel. I mean, it's like we love trivia. They're playing at the highest level of this game, so it's going to be one of those matches that I look forward to, and I actually think could be one of the best matches I'll ever play. I mean, I really feel like this thing is not going to be like the Harris brothers. It's not going to be like any of our other matches. If you think about it, I'm really looking at this. Ben and I never answered a 5-pointer in all the matches that we won in the Anarchy tournament. We never had to go there. Some cases we only had to answer the 2-pointer to win. And the Harris brothers, we didn't even get to the 4th round. So that's not going to be the case here. This is going to go down to the last question. Like, I guarantee it. And for that, I hope I'm on the other end of a win. I want the belt. We'll see, though. This is Clark and Rachel. They're tough.
They are tough. And it's certainly, I know everyone at Take 3, when we found out this match was happening, the lines are already being drawn. We got the Clark Wolf fans, the Rachel Cushing fans. Well, actually, it's really me and everyone else. But, lines are still being drawn, especially when, and you guys could check it out in our episode, was it 49 or something, when we interviewed the Shar Wolves. Clark Wolf had some very choice things to say about you. Abandonment, things like that were brought up. So,
abandonment. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I mean, if she feels that way, what's interesting is, I retired. She went and got a partner, and they've had great success. Now, when I come back out of retirement, is she going to drop Rachel and get back with me? No. It's especially she has the belt, so it's competitive. It's a competitive nature. She'd do the same thing if she had retired and came back out and wanted to play. That's just the game.
That's just the game. And of course, you've been around this game longer than most of the people who are competing on a consistent basis. Of course, you won the 2014 tournament. For you, how is it seeing this league just grow every season?
That's my favorite part of Schmoedown is that you know, it's the season of giving, right? Thanksgiving is coming up, and I couldn't be more thankful for all the competitors, and I really mean that. I think it's even though we're competitive, the thing I know is that everybody loves the Schmoedown. They love competing, and there's a certain bond, even enemies, heels, face. There is a unspoken language of Schmoedown that all the competitors have. And so when you get new people that come and they show themselves as being very good, like your Rachel Cushings, like your Ben Batemans, I'm looking at Chance Ellison. He's really shown himself too. Ethan Irwin coming in here and being dangerous. It's like there are so many people now coming in there that I think in the future you're going to see a lot of any given kind of Sunday comparisons, meaning we're going to see competitors come in, and on paper you're going to go, okay, this person is going to beat this person. It's going to change all the time. You're going to see competitors beat heavyweights. You're going to see heavyweights defend. You're going to see people take belts. You're going to see people turn. And that's because the league is growing, and everybody that comes through here now is really serious. If you want to compete with us, you're not going to last if you come in and only answer a few questions in the first round. I'll say that.
Of course. And speaking on that, of course, sadly, which despite my petitioning and change.org, you were not in the singles tournament this season, which I think is very silly. But next season, you're making a run for that singles bout, I feel like, right?
Yeah. Right now I'm very interested in winning the tag team belt because I've never done it before. And so that's kind of my focus right now. I'll always want to compete, but that's kind of like one of the checklist things that I want to check off the list. When it comes to competing in singles, everything I just said about all these new competitors, I'm always going to want a belt. I'm always going to want to win. And it really is going to be how is my luck going to fare when I go back into singles? And it was kind of by design that I didn't do the singles tournament because I wanted to focus on tag team. Because you look at that lineup and it's pretty dangerous. But I'm excited. I mean, I really want to get back into it and compete in singles and see how I do. Now that the ring rust is gone, what is that going to look like? Who am I going to take on next?
Yeah, of course. So the final question I want to end on here is the Schmoedown has grown beyond just singles and teams. We have new divisions. Out of the divisions you've never competed in, which one would you like to maybe try next season?
Well, there was a little bit of talk behind the scenes of me doing Inner Geekdom. And then Mara Kanopik came into the world. Good Lord. I don't know if I have the ability to compete at a high level in the Inner Geekdom. I thought I did at one point. But what's interesting about Schmoedown and these specialty kind of leagues, Star Wars and Inner Geekdom, you are getting so many deep cuts now because we're getting past all these questions that are just like, what year did A New Hope come out in? What color is Yoda's lightsaber? Those questions don't exist anymore because they've been asked. So for people to compete at a high level in Inner Geekdom or Star Wars, you really have to know the tiny, minute intricacies of some of these things. I do compete at a high level in Inner Geekdom. I think, though, the idea right now is that I think I'm better served in the singles, just the good old classic singles, But never say never. I could see myself wanting to try the Inner Geekdom, at least a match. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Just a match. Well, Mark, thank you so much for this interview. And where can the good people find you online?
Well, good to be here, Matthew. Thank you very much. You can find me at Reilly around on Twitter and Instagram. That's where I share all my stuff. You can go out there on Twitter and check me out there. I also have a Patreon account, patreon.com/Reilly Roundtable. If you want to get involved in that, we do a lot of fun stuff over there as well.
Definitely, guys. If you love Mark Reilly in the Schmoedown, you should really consider joining his Patreon. He has a lot of great tiers. If you love him with Tom Daganino on Who's the Boss, Screaming at the Void is one of the funniest podcasts you could ever listen to. Mark and
thanks.
Tom just go off. Also, if you like watching movies with a shill, Netflix and Chill with Mark. It's a great Patreon.
As well.
I've been there since day one, of course, because it's me.
Of course.
And we all Discord. Mark is great in the Discord chat. We quiz him on Schmoedown. So seriously, if you can, consider doing it. If you're giving somebody a Schmoedown, maybe give $1 to Mark. You know, it's awesome.
I appreciate that. Thanks, dude.
No problem. Thank you so much, Mark, for this interview. It was awesome talking to you as always. I'm going to throw it back to you guys on the summit.
All right, thank you so much, Mark and Matt, for that great interview. It's always great to hear from the competitors and get behind what happens during the matches. And as interviews go, I think this week we've had some really great ones. So moving on to the singles tournament, the whole bracket is set. If you haven't turned your brackets in, there's a website to do that where you can potentially win a prize. If you don't know what that website is, I'm not going to tell you. Go watch the singles preview and find out for yourself. I'm a bad person. All right. So the bracket moving forward is going as such. We have Mark Andreyko versus Drew McWeeny, which is the first match going to be happening on Tuesday. You also have Ethan Irwin versus Chance Ellison. Then Clark Wolf versus Ben Bateman, which I'm really looking forward to that match. And finally, Dan Murrell versus Stacey Howard. It's a smaller tournament than we're used to, but I think as tournaments go, we have some really heavy hitters in here. And obviously, there's some people that we're missing. Obviously, like a Rachel Cushing's not in here. You're missing Bibiani from the stipulation where he couldn't be in the tournament. You know, people like that, mainstays who were missing. But as tournaments go, if it's going to be a smaller one, these are kind of the people I'd want in a tournament. You've got a great mix of people who've been around and been through the ropes, and then you've got a great mix of people who've had belts, and then also people who this is like their first season. And honestly, Chance, this is like his first couple months in the Schmoedown, being in two main tournaments. This is a huge deal. Let's not parse words. Chance being a newbie in the teams tournament and then moving into the singles tournament as the newbie, that is insane. So let's get into this. We're just going to talk about we're going to preview the first two matches because we're going to preview the next week in the Schmoedown anyway, as we always do. But then we're going to just talk about a couple little things to preview what we think is going to happen in this tournament. And that'll be our talk on that. So the first match is going to be this Mark Andreyko versus Drew McWeeny match. This is a really interesting match because I think that they're similar people in terms of some of their strengths. I know Drew McWeeny is going to be a lot heavier on his strengths with 70s, 80s movies, but they have some of those classics as strengths, and they have some other categories that they're very strong in as well. But Mark Andreyko kind of hits more of the pop culture musical section, and apparently horror. Who knew that he was so good at horror? If you haven't seen the Patreon match, he was the person I had no idea if he was going to be good or not, and he turned out to be very good. So who knew that was a strength of his as well? So it's just going to be interesting to see. I think the favorite for this match is Drew McWeeny, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Mark Andreyko, too many Marks, does end up with the win in this. So let's go to Malcolm. What is your prediction for this match between Andreyko and Drew McWeeny?
Yeah, I've got Drew McWeeny winning. Both people are so good. It's really hard, but I think Drew's probably got a wider knowledge base and sort of could easily pull it off. But I do think we should get an all-Mark Patreon matches next year.
There are seriously so many marks, honestly. And the funny thing is, they're always the people I have the hardest time with their first names for some reason. So we're just going to get over that. What about you, Rob? Do you have any thoughts about this match between Andreyko and McWeeny?
Yeah, I also have McWeeny winning. I think, especially when it comes to round one, McWeeny just statistically has been doing much, much better than Andreyko. Andreyko's a great player who has a lot of great moments, but I think like there was a time when McWeeny went like 5 matches in a row without missing a round one question. Andreyko, I think the closest he's gotten to a first round has been like 7 or 8. So overall, I think Andreyko's going to come up just short of winning this one, but I think it's going to be a really good match either way.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you that this match could potentially be the best match of round one. I mean, it's the opening match of the tournament, so if they had them all shot beforehand, you always want to start the tournament out with a good match. So unless they just randomly said, we're going to put these matches in this order, this could potentially be a great match, and then the closing one would be a great match. But if they're just in the order that they were shot, then it doesn't really matter. That's my tangent number one. Who I think is going to win this match, I actually am going to go with Mark Andreyko, and it's not so much that Drew McWeeny knows less. It's that Mark Andreyko this whole season, I feel like in singles, has been on a bit of a hot streak. I mean, you look at the last few matches he's had, and he's been very impressive, especially in categories that we didn't know that he had strengths in. I mean, with horror, no idea he was that good at horror. I mean, really, you should definitely check out the Patreon match if you haven't. It's available for everyone, $1 and up now, and it's incredibly the knowledge these people have on horror movies is very impressive. But, you know, he's got these hidden depths. And earlier in the season, he spun musicals. And I was like, yeah, he could do okay on musicals. He was answering questions like, musicals is a strength of mine. I did not know some of the things he was answering. Like, he didn't even think about them. He just knew the answers. So, I mean, it would be bad of us to say that he's not going to do well in this match. And no one said that. But I think in the past, people have seen Mark Andreyko as more of a middle ground player. And this season, especially the last few months, he's very much shown that he is a contender for that top spot. So I have him moving forward based solely on the fact that he's got the momentum moving forward. And in any sport, momentum is a huge thing. Moving into the next match, you've got another person who's got a lot of momentum behind them right now. You've got Ethan Irwin and Chance Ellison. And if we want to talk about momentum, Chance Ellison getting into the team tournament, getting into those first 2 rounds and being kind of the MVP of every match he played in, this guy's got momentum. And not that Ethan Irwin doesn't. I mean, he's had a heck of a rookie season. I mean, he came in a complete unknown, basically, at free-for-all and owned, you know, a very large portion of that tournament. I'm really interested to see what you guys have to say about this matchup. Robert, what do you think is going to happen in this match on Friday?
This is so tough because Chance Ellison is a good friend of mine from all these fan leagues and things like that. He's somebody that I've known for like over a year. He's somebody that I've personally played. So obviously we've seen what he can do in singles, we've seen what he can do in teams. I think he's even more deadly in singles. He and Irwin both have a really, really, really good knowledge base. Both of them probably going to be up for Rookie of the Year, to be honest. You know, Irwin was 1 match away from a title shot, so this is going to be a hell of a close match, but I am leaning just ever so slightly towards Ethan Irwin. I think that his age is going to play a factor in just his knowledge base. He's had many more years of watching movies than Chance has, and I think, especially what we've seen in the free-for-all, I mean, he lasted X number of rounds and missed, 3 questions the entire time. I just think Irwin is deadly in this league, so I'm going to go Irwin.
All right. And Malcolm, what do you think is going to happen in this match?
I'm actually leaning slightly on the other side. I think Chance could take out Ethan because, I mean, he may be young, but he knows a lot of stuff that I never thought he would have known because of how young he is. there's a reason he took the fan leagues by storm, and there's a reason Christian picked him to be in this tournament. He is really strong. I think he could go far in this tournament.
Yeah, and the other thing that we really haven't talked about is how much of a mystery he is to the other competitors. Because a lot of these competitors will study who they have matches against because they know who they're going to be facing, you know, a couple weeks out. And so they can go and watch like some of their old matches and be like, okay, if opponent's choice comes up, I should pick this or this category. And, you know, if they have this, I should be ready to steal, that kind of thing. They can start picking a strategy. With Chance Ellison, unless they're going to go watch these fan league matches, which a lot of them haven't seen any of them, you know, he's very much a mystery. And, you know, they'll be able to get a little piece of who he is in the teams matches. But the thing about teams is you work so closely with your partner. Sometimes it's hard to know what's your strength and what's his strength, especially in that round 2. If you're conferring a lot, I don't know if Chance was the one who knew that or Mike was the one who knew it. When you talk to each other, it's hard to really tell, you know? So it's going to be interesting to see. I think that there's a slight edge to Ethan just from experience alone. In singles, Chance hasn't played singles. I mean, there's a very big difference between playing teams and playing singles, and we've seen it in the past with players who are exceptionally good at teams, and for some reason, it just does not translate well into singles. I think the person that comes to mind the most, and it's not that they're bad in singles, is Drew McWeeny, surprisingly, because as much of a powerhouse as he was in teams with Sam Levine, like his singles career just did not translate that well. He didn't win the matches that you thought he was going to win. He had a lot of heartbreaks that happened that didn't make a lot of sense. But then in teams, like, man, that translated like crazy. And sometimes you just need that person on your side to give you the encouragement or to jog your memory on certain things. And if you don't have that and you're used to it, it could mess you up. So I'm giving the edge to Ethan, but I think that it's going to be a very interesting match, and I wouldn't count Chance out at all in this tournament. So that's our predictions for the first 2 matches. Definitely check us out next week. We'll talk about, you know, the matches between Clark Wolf and Ben Bateman, and then Dan Murrell and Stacey Howard. But I do want to talk about real quick your prediction for the surprise of the tournament, because there's always one. And then who you think is going to win the tournament overall. So we're going to start with Malcolm. What do you think is going to be the upset, and who do you think is going to win the whole thing?
Well, I mean, I think to go back to Chance, I think he could pretty much upset, because even if he does get past Ethan, I've got Dan winning. I think Chance could beat Dan as well. So I mean, I've got Chance going all the way to the final. So I think he could be a really big surprise come tournament. But winning the whole tournament, I've actually got Drew McWeeny winning.
All right. And Robert, what do you think?
So I think the hardest match to call for this first round, as much as Irwin and Ellison is close, I think Wolf and Bateman are even closer. Because we know how passionate Wolf is, we know how close she's wanted, or we know how close she's been to that singles title, and we know for years how much she's wanted it. I mean, she took Sam Levine into how many questions of sudden death this year. I think she's being overlooked a lot in this tournament. And Bateman is just on a tear in teams, and you know, he was very, very close for that shot in singles as well when he played Roca. So I think both of these two are at the top of their games. Obviously, Bateman has had a shorter career than Wolf has, but I think both of them are in their prime right now. So I think that's an extremely close game. And overall tournament winner, I do have Ethan Irwin taking the full thing. I just think this is his time. You know, he had the one loss earlier in the season in singles. But other than that, he has just been absolutely dominant. Even if you look in his team match, he almost single-handedly beat Bibiani and Nost. So, and look at his performance in the free-for-all. I think overall, all the signs are pointing to Ethan taking the second half of this season in singles.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with you as the entire tournament winner. I do think it is also going to be Ethan. I think that he has just been very impressive this last half of the year, and I do just kind of get the idea if it's him versus McWeenie, we kind of know how that's going to go. We can guess better than some of these other matchups. My pick to win that first round is Andreyko. I think that Erwin can beat Andreyko. And then I think that whoever he faces in the other side of the bracket, I just think that he's got a better chance of winning in terms of how he's performed this last half of the year. My surprise of the tournament, I'm going to go with a repeat surprise of tournament being Stacey Howard. She was the surprise of last year's singles tournament when she beat Mark Ellis, and I had him winning the whole tournament. Well, actually, my dog picked him to win the whole tournament. So Freya was really upset. But I do think that she has, people really underestimate her. And she's had bad matches, but everyone in this tournament has had a bad match. It just happens. Sometimes you're just not on your game. And I think Stacey can have what it takes to beat Dan Murrell. More importantly than her having the knowledge to do it, I think that Dan is going to have an issue coming off that team's loss because they were so close to winning, and he is the kind of player that can really get thrown by something like that. So unless he comes in and he's like the most focused he's ever been, I think that that's going to be a huge part to play in just that first match between him and Stacey Howard. So I personally, for me, that's where the shock is going to be. That's where the upset is going to be for this tournament. We're going to see. Hopefully. Yeah, what's up?
And it's also kind of a grudge match from the tournament too, because I mean, ours going to want revenge for the team match. Just like Wolf and Bateman, it's pretty much that could be a preview of what's to come in the team match. That's spectacular. So,
or what already has happened at the team match of the live event.
Yeah, that's true.
That too.
Yeah, that's true. All of this is just going to be incredibly fascinating how this all shakes out, because there's so many like interesting like little things that can turn into stories. I think new rivalries that can be made out of this, and I'm really just excited to see how this all turns out. And obviously this is all going to lead us into Spectacular, which is the big wrap up of the year. And we did get a new piece of news, which is that the next year's season is going to start on January 26th, which is a Saturday. I don't believe that it'll actually start on the 26th because it's a live event. So it'll start on the 26th for the people who attend the live event. And then unless it streams live, you'll get the product like the next week. So I have no idea. We'll see. But what do you guys think about a live event starting out a season? Is that something that you're pretty excited about, outside of the fact that you might not be going to it?
I mean, yeah, it all depends where it is as far as if we can go to it. But for me, I think it's bold, but I think it's, we've heard a lot of Christian talking about how next season is going to be different. It's going to be the most innovative season that we've seen so far. So I think, if you're going to make changes, make them right off the bat. This is a great way to start off new. It's starting off fresh. It's very bold, but I think it's the right direction to go.
Definitely. What do you think, Malcolm?
Well, if the live event happens to be in New Zealand, then I'm going to be able to go to it. But other than that, I'll wait till it comes on YouTube. But to start off the season, you want to start off big, and the live events have been doing well from what I've heard. So I mean, if the live events have been doing well, start off with a live event. It's one of those things, like if you want to start big, is like there's no point in going from with Spectacular closing out, then going into the start. You don't want to start off by going into a match which may not be great. If you go to a live event, then it's bound to be great, because a lot of the competitors sort of feed off the live events and use that energy to fuel their performances. So there's that.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I'm really most excited about is wherever this event is at, there was a lot of story that happened at the last live event. And there is a ton of story that happens at the beginning of each season. Like that first couple of weeks of each season are really like, this is where it's like the, last year on the Schmoedown, and then they kind of like build from there. So it'll be really interesting to see how that translates in a live event, because we got a piece of how that could fit this last time, but it would be awesome if we could see more like of those cutscenes happen at the live event where, people are just meeting up in between matches, and you get some of that discussion between competitors, kind of setting the pace of where we're going in the upcoming year. So I'd love to see almost like sketches, I guess, would be the thing. So you'd have to have people who know how to act and memorize lines. And I would love to see that, though. I think that would be awesome. And that would be totally like, that's wrestling is what it is. So I think that if Christian can make that happen, he would make that happen. So I've got a feeling that we're going to see some more of that type of thing happening. And it won't just be, here's the match and here's the next match. It'll be some more storyline. And that'll be a big deal in this live match, hopefully. Mm-hmm. So I'm super excited. I can't wait. Hopefully, if it's somewhere where I can attend, I will be there. We're going to find out soon because it's almost December. We're like halfway through November. What the heck happened? But that's our wrap up for the week of the Schmoedown. We do have the fantasy update, which we're going to shoot to before we do plugs. So Matt or Vinny or Vin Diesel, who's doing them now? Vin Diesel? I still don't understand Vin Diesel being our person who does our fantasy updates, but Vin Diesel, take it away.
Groot.
All right, thank you. I guess Vin Diesel. Every week this gets just weirder and weirder to me. So we'll see how long Vin Diesel lasts. We're gonna have to find a new celebrity guest to be our fantasy update person in a couple weeks. So let's get through our plugs, and then to close out the show, we'll do something else.
What will we do after the plug?
I don't know. Leave me alone. I'm gonna go to the store after the plug.
I'm making donuts.
I'm gonna go watch Fantastic Beasts after the plugs.
I'm jealous. I'm not gonna go watch Fantastic Beasts. You post so many good-looking food items on your Instagram, and I'm legit like when I comment and I'm like, move up here and cook for me, like please.
Are there any good medical schools in Chicago?
Yes.
I'll apply to one in Chicago.
University of Chicago.
Or Northwestern.
Sure.
But they're very selective, so I don't know.
I have a good GPA. I have like 3.4.
Okay.
That's not that good. It's fine.
I mean, it's not that bad.
Yeah, sure. Just go to the plugs because my donuts are overproofing.
Damn it. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Vin Diesel, whatever, for that fantasy update. I'm not sure why you're doing our fantasy updates. I don't know how long you're going to be doing them for, but we're going to get into our plugs. So, Robert, where can we find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can find me personally on Twitter and Letterboxd at RBRTPRKR98. That's my first and last name, no vowels plus a year. Other than that, you can find me doing admin and hosting duties here on Take 3 Productions, specifically Watch Along Wednesdays. You can find me doing admin, hosting, and question writing duties on Full Metal Geek, which is the Geek League under Full Metal Trivia. I'm the head question writer over there. And you can find me on the 2 podcasts I do, the Fireside Chit Chat every week with me and Zach Ford, where we talk movies, music, and pop culture nonsense. And you can find me on the second podcast I do with Chance Ellis himself, the Schmoedown competitor, every week where we discuss our favorite TV show of all time, Phineas and Ferb. That's called Podcast Without a Cool Acronym, or PWCA. Forgot to plug that.
You are like the busiest person we have at Take 3, apparently. I had no idea you did all those podcasts. All right. Malcolm, are you as busy as Robert?
Probably. You can find me on Take 3 Productions, where I host my show, Rankum. We just did an episode on MCU movies, which there's a lot of fighting going on there, maybe. I do a lot of trivia on Full Metal and Multiplex. You can also catch me making the guest appearance on Fireside Chit Chat from the last episode where we talked about Harry Potter. And you can also find me on Twitter, Letterboxd, and Stardust at Melkor.
Great. And as always, you can find me right here on Take 3, hosting this show. Crazy, I know. The Reactor Summit. You can also find me on various things throughout reactions and such. And also on Twitter, Instagram, and Stardust at Smith_K10, the number, not the word. As always, we want to thank our editor, Abe. Abe, would you like to plug yourself, sir?
Sure. Follow me on Twitter at AbrahamF25. If I don't know you, don't add me on Facebook. And also watch Gone with the Wind goes up every Thursday or Friday.
I would like to also say, if you don't know me, please don't try and add me on Facebook, because I won't.
I'm talking to you, Dominic Risi. I don't know who you are.
Like, if we're friends and we talk, then sure, add me. But if we don't talk, I have a family and I like my privacy. So, all right, guys. So that's it for the summit. And you can check us all out next week as we talk about the great singles tournament that's going to be starting soon. So that's awesome. So we'll see you later. Bye.